Hello and welcome to my live. I'm talking today about safety-seeking behaviours. So this is week 1 of a series, and today I'm talking about binge eating. If you're watching live, I won't be looking at the comments, but I will check in afterwards. So just leave a comment and I will happily get to that at the end. Thank you for watching. If you are watching this on replay, thank you for coming by. So you might not have thought about binge eating as a safety-seeking behaviour. Now, this came to me. I was watching my little granddaughter. She is 9 and she sucks her thumb now. My sister sucked her thumb. I sucked my thumb. I remember sucking my thumb. I was at least 10 or 11 when I stopped, and my sister would have been at least 13. Now, looking back, it was an absolute addiction. I couldn't stop myself from sucking my thumb. I was watching my granddaughter and I thought, the behavior, the action of sucking your thumb is the same as the action for, say, having a drink, having a cigarette, having seeking like chocolate or chocolate binge or anything like that. And I realized that these kind of behaviors are what I term safety-seeking behaviors, and it doesn't make sense because sucking your thumb doesn't make you safe. But what it does is it gives you comfort. It soothes you. It's a soothing, comforting behavior. And so if you are feeling at any time that you are vulnerable, that you are uncomfortable, because think about it, it's a comfort-seeking behavior. So we do these things when we are not comfortable. So that means that we're either in distress or emotional vulnerability, or we're not safe, or we may not have a feeling of control. As a person who has personal experience with binge eating, I can say firsthand that the times in my life where I have had a problem with binge eating, because it hasn't been a consistent thing throughout my whole life, it's been like in periods, and during those periods I've sort of thought, like, what is going on here? Why am I doing this? And it's like you're outside of your body observing the behavior. And I don't know if you've had that with different things, like it happens with emotional hijacking, when you're acting like that crazy person and there's that little part of you that's looking on. It's the same with these kind of things. It's like addictions. You can think to yourself, I'm not going to do it, but you can't stop yourself. And so I guess with these times in my life where I felt out of control, I would then resort to comforting myself with food, like obviously as an adult or after I stopped sucking my thumb. I remember I took up smoking when I was 13, and I took up drinking when I was 13, and alcohol and cigarettes became a kind of something I really gravitated towards. And then at 16, I stopped drinking and I stopped smoking. And at that time, I then started to work, and I became quite focused on working. So there was always that something that I was leaning on in order to get my emotional needs met, or my security needs, or my safety needs. So during the times that I felt out of control, I would seek some kind of safety-seeking behavior. It might have been in a relationship, or just something that was going to fulfill the bits that were missing inside of me. Okay, so for some part of us, I know for me at least, and for in many cultures as well, food is associated with love. It's associated with family. And even when we're born, our parents hold us, whether it doesn't matter if we're bottle fed or breastfed, at some point we were held and we were fed. And so we had that first neurological development of this nourishment. Our parents, our caregivers loved us. They held us. We had that sucking reflex, which is also with the thumb sucking. But that developed such powerful neurological pathways about love, about food. And I've seen in my life where babies that were withheld food, or where food was controlled or limited, or that wasn't there, they often have, I've watched them grow up to be people who felt, maybe they felt that they needed to withhold themselves of food. And I've seen people who were forced to eat things like eat everything on your plate, how dare you waste that, and then they grow up with that kind of thing. So there's different programming we get when we're children about food, and also our bodies. So there's one little comment. I've noticed that people who have poor body image often there's that one little comment, you know, when I was 12, my mother said this, when I was 5, my sister said that, or the kids at school, or someone or other, an aunt at a wedding, or a grandparent, or whoever, somebody innocently made some comment, and it can affect us. Now, what has this got to do with binge eating? Probably not that much, other than the fact that our self-worth and our self-image is involved, and I'll explain that as I go along. So there's just a lot, I just want to be clear that there's a lot of psychology around food, even self-protection. So people who have experienced the wrong kind of attention, perhaps where it's been jeopardizing their safety, maybe abuse victims, etc., may resort to overeating, because that then gives you a layer of protection. And I have I can somehow relate to that, because at times, if I've wanted to be invisible, and this can be conscious or unconscious, like, well, let's call it unconscious, but then I become consciously aware of it later, is that I notice that I can do the same thing. Now, because I have experienced both periods of time in my life where I've had healthy relationships with food, healthy body weight, healthy levels of, you know, where food's not been a focus, just been part of life, and I can eat without thinking about it. I'm not trying to diet or starve myself or anything like that. But I've also had times in my life where food became a massive problem. And I can honestly say that we don't choose that consciously. Like, some people might say, oh, you know, those people just have no self-control. Look at me, I've got self-control. I have heard skinny people say that, because they might have a level of control around their food consumption. But I can honestly say that when you have a disordered eating structure, where it's like a binge eating, there is nothing and no one that could stop you from doing that. It's literally out of control. So I remember thinking, you know, when my life was out of control is typically when my eating would get out of control. And I used to think, my gosh, where will this end? And then I'd begin to battle with myself. It'd become an internal war where I'm fighting my urges to eat. I'm fighting my cravings for, you know, usually sweet things, sometimes savory things. It doesn't matter. You know, you can, I mean, I know Oprah has publicly gone through, you know, her battles with, you know, food and yo-yoing and weight and all that sort of stuff. I remember watching, this would have been at least 20 years ago, her talking to somebody about this and saying that she recalls at one point she went to the freezer, pulled out a bread roll, put it in the microwave, covered it in golden syrup or some kind of syrup or something. And it's just the fact that when that binge eating urge hits you, you will literally like do anything to fill that internal, whatever that void is that we're trying to fill when we do this. Sometimes we will try to counteract it. So just say, for example, and this was really, really bad in the 90s, because there was all those all you can eat. All you can eat was massive. Sizzler was out. There was Chinese all you can eat. There was the RSL Club all you can eat. And it was just like, I actually reached a point at some point in my life where I just went, I don't go to those places, because it wasn't good for my mental health to be in a place where the whole point of being there was to stuff myself. And so I then decided that it was better to just eat it for normal, where they put food on a plate for you. So the first thing I want to cover off with binge eating is there are two types. There's a binge eating disorder doesn't necessarily mean that there's any purging or any exercising or any laxative abuse or anything like that. Some people just literally binge eat and then they go on controlled eating. So it's like I eat well, and then I go on a binge eat, so I'm then overeating. The other kind of binge eating is where there's like overeating. You reach a certain point where you realize, hang on, I've gone too far, and then you think, what the heck, I'm just going to vomit it up anyway at the end. And so there's that binge and purge cycle. Now, there's so much shame involved in this, so much shame. It is like, first of all, no matter how good the food tastes on the way down, everything feels disgusting once you've overstuffed yourself. There's regret, there's feeling of like a failure if you've been, you know, good for a long time. There's that sense of out of control, of worthlessness, of feeling ugly and horrible, and it's just like a downward spiral, and it really, really doesn't feel good. It's like everything just fell to pieces. And I found that every time that I was in a phase of my life where I was out of control, I would then focus in on food. I would have focus on eating, what I was eating, not eating, what I was cooking, what I was craving, and whether I was going to eat what I was craving. And it would get bigger and bigger. The problem got bigger and bigger. But what I always say is that the problem is never really the problem. We've always got something going on within us, and we then create a problem on the outside. That then gives us a distraction. We're not dealing with what really is going on the inside. So the minute I shifted my focus to working on things that actually made me feel good, made me feel happy, food and binge eating just slips to the background. When something else is put in the forefront that actually feels good, then we don't need these safety-seeking behaviours anymore. And you'll see that even with children who suck their thumb. They don't suck their thumb when they're busy playing, when they're happy, when they feel good. They will suck their thumb if you shout at them, or they're tired or anything like that. Straight away they're going to go, and the thumb's going to go in their mouth. The same with the binge eating. Anytime you have like stress come on you, or things are not going well, or you're feeling out of control or attacked or blamed or anything like that, then that's when this stuff comes up. So thinking about it now, like I realized that, before I did all the work on myself and, resolved some of this internal stuff, I had unstable periods of my life, and I would always have a crutch. It would be either a person, it would be a relationship, a situation, a job. I'd be seeking adrenaline, kind of risk-taking behaviours, or, something. There'd be something there, and the binge eating just fits in with that, as does going out and partying and whatever else it is in our life, that seeking connection with people, healthy or unhealthy connection. That's such a big difference between a healthy connection and an unhealthy connection. It's all about this safety seeking behavior. So if you're wondering why I am sharing all of these things publicly, because let's face it, it's not pretty stuff. It's not something that most people would want to talk about. It's because 1 in 3 women at some time in their lives has had an eating disorder, whether it's bulimia, anorexia, binge eating, excessive dieting, taking, appetite suppressants. I've had clients who are in their 70s still battling body image issues and battling with food. That's not something that you see when you look around the mall. If you go to the shops, you don't look around and think, 1 in 3 of these people is suffering with some kind of terrible emotional food relationship. It's hidden, and it's not something that we see. And it's all part of feeling not safe, not lovable, or not loved, not secure, not accepted, not acceptable, not good enough. So it's just, where does the real problem lie, and how do we solve it? How did I overcome my battle with food and with binge eating? Look, I'm just like everyone else. I want to feel good and I want to look nice. We all do. My mum's 75. She still wants to look nice. She still wants to feel good. Food only becomes a problem when it's used as either comfort or a reward or guilt or pleasure, or to fill a void within us where safety or security or connection or love or worthiness, etc., or all of that would normally be. If we have an absence of those, if we don't feel safe, secure, loved, accepted, fulfilled, if we feel unfulfilled, unsafe, unsatisfied, then that's going to resort to us trying to block, push down, mask. And for me, I believe binge eating is about pushing down stuff that we cannot cope with. It's the feelings. I don't want to feel that. I will feel something else. I don't want to feel that. And look, interestingly, anorexia runs on similar patterns. there are some twists. I won't go into that right now because this is getting on, but we'll talk about that on another day. But it is, let's face it, the crux of mental health is when I am feeling good, when I feel good enough, when I feel loved, when I belong, when I feel like I've got power and control, and when I feel like I am capable, when the future is good, when I have hope, when I'm supported and wanted and not weighed down with that feeling of self-loathing and shame and fear and worthlessness, then I will be well. And if I have the reverse, then I'm going to be not well, and I'm going to have these safety-seeking behaviours. And that's where whatever I've learned as my safety-seeking behaviour will come back. And look, I'm not whatever we've done in the past is always going to be a strategy that we can reapply if our life turns pear-shaped. Look, it's definitely something that where we can work on ourselves, we can heal those things, and the behaviour will vanish. And that's it. That's how it works. I remember when my life was, this is just a little story. I remember my life was completely out of control. I was 21 years old. I had 2 children and very little money. I was going through a turbulent breakup. I had no idea what the future held. I wasn't even sure I could keep my kids safe. I was in a very upheaved moment in my life. And I remember one day I drove to the cheesecake shop. I bought half a black forest cake. So it was a craving thing. I needed this. I drove there. I don't even know how I had the money for it, but I could not even wait to get home. I just opened the box on the passenger seat, and while I was driving with my right hand, I was reaching across and scooping out black forest cake with my left hand and just stuffing it into my face while I was driving. It was like I was witnessing this insane behavior. I couldn't have stopped myself if I tried. I just felt so out of control in every way at that time, and it was the only thing that I could do to give myself some kind of relief or something that actually felt good in that moment. I cannot even imagine doing that now. I wouldn't even want to eat black forest cake now, but now I'm in a different emotional space. Now I feel completely different. I'm now in a part of my life where I have people around me who love me. I have security, connection with myself, with others. I feel good about myself. I feel loved, and I feel strength in myself and confident in my ability to control my future, to make choices. Even if things don't go perfectly, I know I can cope. I know I will be okay. So it's kind of like the way, working on yourself to resolve all this stuff and give yourself that sense of certainty in yourself, confidence in yourself, in who you are, feeling good about who you are, is kind of like going to the gym. You don't go there once. You go there and you start to work on yourself and you build up the strength. And, like physiotherapy, if there's injuries, you work around those injuries and you get yourself into a healthy emotional and mental state. So part of that journey, part of what I've been through has allowed me to not only learn how to resolve my stuff and work through my stuff, which I continue to do. I continue to do that with myself, with my kids, with my partner, and but it's also helped me to learn all the strategies and techniques to help other people, and that's what I now do, help other people to resolve their inner turmoil, to heal their past. And I just share that story with you because I think it's important to understand and realize that even though everybody looks like they've got it together on the outside, everyone has a past. We've all been through stuff. We've all been through messy parts of life that didn't feel great. We've all felt the full spectrum of emotions, even the happiest people know what shame feels like, what humiliation feels like, what regret feels like, what distress or worry or all those kinds of things. And so it's important to understand that if you feel any of those things, that you're not alone. You are not alone at all. You are just a human being having a human experience, and everything that we experience can be reversed. You can change your experience at any time to have a good experience. So what I do is I work with people with anxiety, with depression, with addictions, PTSD, eating disorders. And these things rob so many people of happiness. If you can relate. If you feel like you're that duck sitting on the water, paddling frantically underneath, if you've got things that, you know, you feel that other people don't know what's really going on behind the scenes, that you're really struggling in life, that you've got a lot of messy stuff that you haven't dealt with. If you are struggling with eating disorders, with binge eating, with any kind of eating disorder, then you can take a couple of options to move forward. Firstly, you could go to the My Local Hypnosis Facebook page and join our anxiety-free life group. Secondly, you can book a free session with either myself or one of the team to discuss how you can work with me. And thirdly, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's just Naomi Stockman. That's the name of the YouTube channel. And that way you'll be able to get to know me better, hear some of the other topics that I speak about, and connect. I always reply to comments. Have a beautiful day, and I will check the comments now. Talk soon.